Hi everybody, I'm JG Pasterjack from Grassroots Motorsports Magazine. The video you're about to watch was featured on one of our recent live Watch Us Wednesday shows on Facebook. Join us every week for more great content just like this and more great stuff right from the pages of your favorite car magazine, Grassroots Motorsports. Enjoy the video, everybody.
Hey guys, my name's Paul Wright. I've been over here in stateside for about 10 years. Initially I was from England with the British military. I came over, started racing. After I'd been racing a couple of years, I decided it was really time to get a dedicated race car. And what I decided to do ultimately was just build my own car. So I kind of looked around and I thought about doing the kit route, but I wanted to do it myself. There's a ton of help online. There's a Locost forum, which is Locost groups, which are cars that are loosely based off a Lotus 7, which my car is. It runs as a Lotus 7, so it has to look like a Lotus 7. So about 4 years ago I started building the car, and at the time I had absolutely no experience. I was really just getting in there. I went out and bought a welder. I started to practice with it, and I just, learned everything as I went. It's like it's quite difficult to build a car. You've got to, when you think of the complexity of just mounting a wheel to a chassis that points in the right direction, that's a difficult task. Well, as you go on, you find out the wheel's got to move up and down, and when it goes up and down, you might want to add a little bit of camber. It's got to stay straight. So there's tons of stuff you've got to think about when you're building it, and you've got to learn a lot along your way. So this is my car anyway. I'd like to kind of take you through my car. Obviously the chassis is all custom made. As I've been going, it gets cut up and remade, because when I built the car, I didn't really have a plan for the car. I didn't really know what I was doing, what class to go in. I just wanted to build a car, so I built it. The biggest mistake I ever made was I built it based on the footprint of the RX-8. So I've got a car now with a 106-inch wheelbase, which is about 2 feet too long compared to the rest of the class. I basically put it all together. I went to a local track and just did a couple of kind of practice sessions, and then I took the car completely back apart to the bare frame. I went back and fixed all the bad welds and grounded some bits out, and then looked and made a few changes to the chassis, then put it all back, then painted it, and then put it all back together and started racing. And that was 2 years ago. So the car as it sits, I bought a stock 2.2 litre S2000 engine with transmission, and so that's kind of the heart of the engine. And I ran an E-mod, which I've been running for 2 years. Recently I decided to get to E-mod power I would have to add a turbo or a supercharger, which is obviously quite expensive. What I decided to do instead is drop down to D-mod, which allows a 2 litre or less. So I actually bought another engine that I managed to find. It was actually a non-running motor that was a 2 litre version. I then took apart the 2 litre version, took apart the 2.2, and then made the 2.2 into a 2 litre, and I've just finished that. When I got that engine, I also got a new transmission. So because I had a spare transmission, I removed 5th and 6th gear to save some weight. I got a new lighter 4-put clutch. I got the original pressure plate, and I drilled a ton of holes in it and managed to save the exact same weight of the clutch. So when I rebuilt it, I basically dropped the entire weight of the clutch out of the car. So it's got really light flywheel and clutch and pressure plate, which makes it a little hard to drive around the pits, but it goes faster when you're going. Following back down the drivetrain, it's a custom drive shaft, so I used the S2000 engine and transmission, and I also bought a donor car, which was a 1989 Toyota Supra Turbo, which is the old boxy ones that weren't particularly desirable. So I bought that for like 800 bucks, and that provided the LSD diff, the rear axles, it was all the knuckles and all the brakes, but they've since been updated. What it did have that was nice was a nice limited slip diff. It's a 3.72 or 3.74, which is taller than the S2000, so that gets my top speed in 2nd gear, which is important, pretty high, better. And then I've got the Supra axles on the back, which are good for way more power than this little car is ever going to make. The rear suspension is pretty cool. I completely designed my own suspension. Basically I've got push-rod suspension, which I designed myself, which is adjustable. So you can change the position of the shock. It's got 5 positions, and the push-rod has 2 positions, giving me 10 options for spring rates. So I can basically change the wheel rate from anything to about 100 to 700 inch-pounds at the wheel. The biggest luxury I've got on the car is the wheels. I got some real nice custom-made aluminum wheels. I run 15-inch wheels, and they're 10 inches wide at the front and they are 14 inches wide at the back, and the tyres I've got are 10.5 inches wide at the front and 15 inches wide at the back. I did have a full roll cage, so I had the back bar, the front bar, and I had side bars, but as the car's gone on, they all had weight, so I pulled the weight off. The D-Mod and E-Mod are limited aero packages. There's not a lot you can do, but I kind of got close. So this is a 10-inch spoiler. You're allowed, it's got to be 10 inches tall in the middle and can go out as wide as the fenders at axle height. So this is kind of what everyone does. I put a load of the fins on it. I'm not sure if they do anything, but you know, they might work, and I kind of think they look cool. So I've got 8 across the back. Most people have 2 or 4. Underneath I've got the diffuser. I actually had some guy who I've never met, who on the Locost forum, he said he spent 4 hours designing this diffuser for me, and I probably didn't do as good a job as he did on the design. However, it's around, I think, about a 13-degree angle, and it's got 4 fences on it, so that's kind of where I want to be. The exhaust is, it's kind of hodgepodge together by me. Basically, the manifold is a stock S2000 manifold. I cut it and added these pieces to make it clear the frame, and then I just added a straight pipe to the muffler on the back. I did have Harley Davidson mufflers, which was super cool, and they cost me $10 on eBay for 2. They were on the back, but they got progressively louder the more I ran the car, and I was kind of I got warned for the sound. And initially I pointed the exhaust down, which was causing that tire to get really hot and making me slip a lot. Every time I turned left, the car would get loose. So I've pointed the exhaust up, which I guess it adds downforce because it's pointed up, so it's pushing the car down, which is kind of cool. All the suspension and the suspension geometry I made myself, and I actually didn't do a very good job, but you know, what did I know? I didn't have any experience. But the lower control arms, as they go up, I get anti-caster, which means my caster reduces as it goes up. So that's on the list of things that has to be fixed to make the car faster. The front splitter. So the front splitter, there is an entire section, which is about half a page in the rule book, written about the Lotus 7 front splitter. And I don't think anybody understands the rules of it. So a splitter on a mod car has to be backed with bodywork. So this piece is bodywork, but this is the back of the splitter and the bottom bit's a splitter. So I think I'm good, and at Nationals I spoke to guys and they were alright with it, and I'm not that fast anyway, so we're kind of good. But you can make the splitter the entire width somehow and fill the back in a little bit. So there's a lot of very complicated rules about the splitter. One thing I found as I go is I really like to stick with the OEM stuff, because OEM equipment is just so much better built. It lasts so much better. I actually upgraded my throttle body to an aftermarket throttle body. I bored out all the intake, got it all working really nice, and as soon as it got warm it would stick. So I'd spend more time messing with the gas pedal and not concentrate on what I was doing, so it made me slower because it was frustrating. The engine is basically stock. I've got a few small mods. Obviously the intake is a custom intake and the exhaust a custom intake. Or the same engine, when it was a 2.2 on the dyno, I got nearly 250 horsepower and about 190 torque, which is unheard of for these cars, for the S2000. But I since took the pistons out and made it smaller by 10%, so I'd be happy if I only lost 10% when I took the engine apart and put it back together. And that's kind of it in a nutshell, you know. I mean, I run data with a car. I'm constantly doing my best to go as fast as I can. I like coming out locally, competing against the guys. The car's really surpassed all expectations from what I had, you know. Like my goal was to come here. This is my local course, Gulf Coast Autocross. This is my local club. I wanted to come here and get the fastest time of the day. Well, a little over a year ago I did that, and I was so proud of myself to get the fastest time. And since then, every time I turn up, I've got about a 50-50 shot at getting fast time of the day. So I think in the 12 events since, 6 times out of those I've been the fastest. And of the ones I wasn't the fastest, like a couple I've been the fastest, but I hit cones. And then we had a rain day once. I was actually the slowest car on track because 14-inch wide slicks don't work well when there's 2 inches of water on the ground, but it's a lot of fun to drive, and you do get quite wet because the windshield wipers aren't very good. So that's my car. I'm Paul Wright. I'm looking forward to lots more racing and all that kind of stuff. So thank you very much.